design of regulations that will actually help us move in the right direction. Their design, it's about their formulation and their enforcement. So we're talking about the Constitution. Will it be passed? If it is the letter. We're talking about all of these policies that we have. Do we get them? Yes, most of the time. Do we enforce them? It relates to the design of institutions, the legal frameworks, the operational frameworks, or the legal mandates of institutions, and making sure that they are implemented effectively to affect how an economy works. So basically, Gambia, if you disagree with me, please raise your concerns, and then we can talk about it either right now or after. The government of the Gambia is the main architect of the economy of the Gambia. Main, I'm not saying the only, main architect. The key driver, the main architect of the economy of the Gambia is the government of the Gambia. So that tells us, what do we need to do? We need to look at how they actually deal with the economy, how they draft policies, fiscal policy, the budget. How do they attain tax revenue, for example, is under the fiscal policy. How do they tax people? And how does taxing people affect the production, domestic production in the economy? And how does that domestic production, is it increasing by cost-wise? Is it increasing or is it decreasing? If it is increasing, how does that add to the prices of goods and services? Now, we're talking about from fiscal policy to tax being implemented, and then that affecting domestic producers, and domestic producers transferring the cost of their production to consumers, and then consumers having to pay for what? The end product, the price, or the consequence of the fiscal policy. So you see what is happening here. The governance structure of the Gambia needs to be understood. The economy of the Gambia needs to be understood in order for us to do something about the economy. If you don't understand, you just don't know. And if you don't know, you cannot do much. You can do something, and by accident, you stumble on it, and then you get it right. But if you understand strategically what is happening, what the structures are, you will know where to strike. And one strike alone can change the entire economy, or can turn around the economy, or can do something massively significant for the economy. So that is why I've brought in I've brought in the explanation for the structure of the Gambian economy. So please keep that in mind. The key driver, or the main architect of the Gambian economy, is the government of the Gambia. And how do? They use fiscal policy. They use monetary policy. The government, central government, and the local governments, they use fiscal policy. The lead person for that is the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. And then secondly, monetary and exchange rate policies. The exchange rate, our Gambian currency, the value of Gambian currency is depreciating against CFA. It is depreciating against euro, dollar. Now, who are the architects behind that? Central bank. If we don't produce, we cannot sell. And what do we sell with? We sell with our money. If our money doesn't have value for people, our value, correct, the value of our money will depreciate. So the only way to back up your money, to make sure that your money is valuable against other currencies, is to produce. And that production is supported by the policies of the country, the structure, the policies of the government, the structure of the government institutions, and of course, private institutions. So when we talk about structural policies, we are not only talking about the design of rules and regulations at government institutions only. We are also talking about the design of rules and regulations at private institutions. But those rules and regulations at private institutions are also influenced to an extent by the design of rules and regulations at public institutions. For example, Ministry of Justice saying business registration should be done within 2 hours in a day. That will attract what? Private investors maybe to come and say, you know what, this country's registration is easy. Let's go to the Ministry of Justice and then just do the registration and then be done with it, and then we set up a business. That will, in aggregate terms, more businesses into the economy, more foreign direct investment into the economy, because of the ease of registration in the economy, will help the economy move forward. So the last thing, 1 minute. I want to also delve into just two things. Macroeconomic instability. So we talk about macroeconomic instability in the country. I would love to talk more on that, but there are two things that I want you to please pay attention to, and I need to leave with here. Internal balance of an economy, external balance of an economy. So when we talk about internal balance, we mean the production of goods and services and prices of goods and services. So the production is at its potential. That means the economy is producing what it is capable of producing. The agriculture sector is producing what it's capable of producing, fishery sector producing what it's capable of producing, and other sectors producing what they are capable of producing, right? And then we have prices of goods and services, that is inflation in the country. If inflation is low and stable, and the production is at its potential, we have internal balance. Do we have that in the economy? I don't think we do. External balance. We can trade with other countries easily and finance our trade easily without resorting to borrowing, without defaulting on our payments, and also without extreme changes in the exchange rate or volatile changes in the exchange rate. That is external balance. Do we have that? Do we have volatile changes in our exchange rate? Yes. Did we? Point? We did. Right? Are we defaulting on our payments? Of course, if you don't have hard currencies, importers complain that they did not have money to pay the exporters, right? Remember, there was a time that this became an issue, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that we don't have external balance either. So the Gambia's economy is unstable. There is economic instability in the Gambia. Why? Because we do not have internal balance. We don't produce. We import, and we import inflation, and inflation is high in the country. Secondly, we don't have external balance, meaning we are not able to finance our trade in an orderly manner. We either resort to borrowing, or we default on our payments, or our exchange rate will depreciate. That means the value of Gambian dollars will depreciate because we need more dollars, demand and supply. So this is where I will stop.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Don't go, we're not done yet. We are going to invite a few questions from the audience remarks. Yes.
There is a lot to talk about, sir. Just the aggregates, All right.
Mr. Diva, thank you so much for that contribution. My question is, how does the shortage of fuel and bread affected our economy in the Gambia?
I think I need to take notes. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Are you giving anybody else? Anybody else wants to contribute?
Yes, we're going to take 2 more questions. Okay.
If not, I have some questions. One. Mr. Diba, thank you very much. By the way, Mr. Diba is one of the people who teach my guys at Askan, so that's why you see they're asking more questions. So we want to thank you for your enlightening presentation.
Thank you.
But just looking at the current situation with the economy, how do you see what is your current assessment of the economy? And of course, we've been talking about independence, but economic independence is another thing entirely, which is for me the bedrock of independence. So just give us a further analysis, because you've explained many things that we should consider. But where are we right now after 60 years? With our economy.
Okay, we have a final question from the young man here. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I am Bukasila. I just want to ask you, you made mention that Gambia is not the main architect of the economy of the Gambia.
Government of the Gambia.
Yeah, but it has also other external actors also. So do you think other external actors involved in architecting our economy? Yeah.
I'll hold it for you.
Okay. Do you think the main or the only architect of our economy will impact our economy, and then other external actors will have influence in architecting our economy?
Right. Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much. We'll allow him to answer the questions.
Bread and fuel.
All right, so I will start with the first question. How does shortage of fuel and bread affect the economy? So I'll start, first of all, I'll start with why we have a shortage. Why we have, is it, I'll start with the why and then I will go with the how. So now, you know, when it comes to fuel, we import fuel, right? We import fuel. So if there is shortage of fuel in the economy, the why of it could be that it means, you know, the importation of it either has deteriorated or it is being affected negatively. That means the importers of fuel are either refusing to import fuel for some reasons or they're having problems importing fuel. So if there is shortage of fuel in the country from which we import, obviously there will be shortage of fuel in the Gambia. And then the shortage of fuel in the Gambia will actually contribute to hike in the prices of fuel in the Gambia. And once the price of fuel in the Gambia increases, obviously that means demand is higher for fuel, right? So the why of it, why is it that we have a fuel problem in the Gambia? It could be that there is shortage or there is lack of importation of fuel into the country. So your question was that how does shortage of fuel affect the economy? Now, what do we use fuel for? That's the question you ask yourself, right? We use fuel for transportation of goods and services, right? And we use fuel for production of goods and services, two things. So if there is fuel shortage in the country, it will drive up prices, inflation. So we'll face inflation in the country, right? And the second thing is people will not be able to move and goods and services will not be able to move freely. That will bring friction, right? People will not be able to have access to goods and services. So if goods and services are not moving, what will that happen? It will affect a restaurant business that is ordering from, let's say, Brikama to bring meat here, right? That restaurant will not be able to process that meat or cook that meat for the day, and people will starve. This is an example. There are so many other examples that could be given. Let's say a farmer that wants to transport goods, let's say intangible, or let's say, how do you call them? Short-lived goods. Tomato, for example. They want to transport it from upcountry to the urban centers, right? So, but there is no fuel. So you wanna hire a lorry or a truck to bring the goods, but there is no fuel. Or there is fuel, but they are what? They are charging you more. If you are paying $500 from, let's say, to bring it from upcountry to here, now they are charging you $1,000 hike. So there is price hike in terms of fuel. There is price hike in terms of transportation of goods, and now that will also contribute to hike in the price of tomato. Because the person that is selling with a cost of production, let's say if the cost is only 500, if the person is selling one pot at $100, now if the cost has increased to, let's say, $1,000, what do you think is going to happen? It's the price will have to, for them to maintain their profit, the price will have to move from 100 to 200, right? So shortage of shortage of fuel in the economy, let's say, impedes or hinders the flow of people, the flow of goods and services. And that could bring in so many other factors. The economic implications are so volatile that one thing can lead to so many other things. So let's say, for example, in this case, shortage of flow of goods and services will lead to shortage of goods and services at shopkeepers, and then that will also lead to people being starved. An extreme way of doing an analysis, but just to make sure that you understand. So bread shortage, obviously, again, that will lead to people being starved, right? But then again, the why of it, flour. Do we produce flour in the country? No, we import it, right? So if we import flour from the country, right? But then the flour importers are saying that, okay, now instead of paying $50 for a bag of flour, you now have to pay $75. Now we have importers who are importing flour, right? But then they have to add extra $25 to the $50, right? That's a huge increase, right? It's increasing by what? How much? By a huge margin, right? So by what? By 50%, right? So that's going to have implications. Now, the importer is going to tell the producer of the bread that, look, I can import. There's shortage, so they are increasing their prices over there. Or they also have increase in their cost of production. Let's say, for example, in Senegal, they have increase in their cost of production. So because of that, they also want to increase what? They also want to increase their selling price. So if they increase their selling price, that selling price will affect the importer here that is importing from Senegal. And that, because it has affected that person by $25, that person will also want to transfer the whole or part of bread. We want to also say, look, you know what? I'm paying more now for the flour, so I'm going to have to increase the price of bread. So if I increase the price of bread, what's going to happen? Probably that's what is happening right now. These people, they're having spike in their raw material that is used in the production of food. And they also want to increase price. Look, everything about the economy is interconnected. So obviously, to answer your question, shortage of bread will also lead to people being starved. Again, I don't want to sound too extreme about it, but it will affect people. In fact, let me give you an example. If, for example, you need to go to work, or let's say at work, you need to eat breakfast, right? And you eat bread as breakfast, right? Before you start work, right? If bread is short at the market, you have to, if you buy it from here, that's a 1 minute walk, right? If it is short there, you'll have to go further because you need to eat before you work. Otherwise, you won't function well. And that will affect your productivity. So the end product is, it affects productivity, if not famine, or if not starvation, right? It affects productivity negatively. If you don't eat, you cannot function well. You must eat first. So if bread is, for example, the only source of breakfast that you get, and you don't get that, you won't be productive. So it stunts productivity. It can lead to, if persistent, it can lead to starvation. So the second question. Yeah, very, very, very. So what is your current assessment of the economy, economic independence? So the Gambia, do we have economic independence? You want to know, right? Of course, that is, it's a rhetorical question. And again, I'll go ahead to say, no, we don't have economic independence. Why don't we have economic independence? You have to look at production. Production. Services, we produce services, but let's say production of tangible goods. Let's look at agricultural production, fisheries production. What are the basic goods and basic commodities that we consume here? Fish, rice. Let's stop there. Let's not go further. Do we produce rice sufficiently? Up to 50%, do we? So I think I remember an interview by my very great mentor of mine who said, I think it's about 200,000 tons of rice we need yearly. We only produce about 46,000 tons, right? So basically, we're looking at 154,000 that we need to import. So if you produce 100,000 tons of that, maybe you have independence by 50. If rice is the only determinant, and we can flow of goods and services, or let's say external flow of tangible goods stops, you will be able to sustain yourself. Right on. Yes, but for now, as it stands, we don't have economic independence. And if it happens that we don't have inflow from other countries, in the short run, will we have economic independence? No. But in the long run, can we? I think yes, probably we can. And the last but not least, are there other actors involved in the architect building, the economic architect building? Yes, of course, there are. There are. Let me give you an example, one straight example. You see the budget. The budget of the Gambia affects the economy a great deal, right? The fiscal policy, the budget is the main thing under the fiscal policy, right? It is the main enforcer of the fiscal policy. But the budget, during the budget process, in fact, even during the budget process, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, has a say in how we draft our budget. And to give you an example, this 2025 budget, the IMF had an issue, should have been. So, to answer your question shortly, obviously, the external influence, they have a huge impact on our economic architect building. Yes, thank you very much. I'm not? Oh,
Yes,
I was, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have spent so much of your time. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
This brings us to an end. I don't think it's Babukar here. This brings us to an end. Thank you very much for your contribution, participation, and insights. It's been wonderful to hear and see. We're often told that the Gambian youth, we're a bit the negative connotations to how we're perceived sometimes, but I think that it's a great and the passion. I feel the passion in everything that everyone is saying. So we thank you very much for taking your time, coming here this morning, being with us until the afternoon. I invite Babukar Nyang to give us some closing remarks before we adjourn. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Aisha. Can you please put your hands together for Aisha? She has been a Joe boy! Joe boy! Joe boy! Wow. I'm not feeling the happiness now. These Gambians are ready for the prime time. Thank you. On behalf of the Committee of Elders, co-chaired by Sal and Mahdi.
Wait, one second. Guys, do you guys agree that Aisha did a fabulous job?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that she handled this thing so well?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that nobody else could have done it better than she did?
Yes.
You know what? Because she's a woman.
Yeah. All right. So we were reflecting and we said, the level of conversation that happened here, and then the engagement, the caliber of people that took their time, to just come and attend this thing was amazing. Guys, do you agree for us to do this thing in Birkama? Do you agree? Alaji, we are committing to do this thing in Birkama. Please, we need a date and time and when to do this thing in Birkama. All the region, but the next one is in Birkama, and we are committing to do that as sharp. And Sumana, tie your belt and make sure the mobilization is there. Guys, have you noticed that there was no bread this morning? Boy, there was no bread. Huh? Guys, have you noticed there was no petrol for the past 2 days, guys? Huh? So these are the things that we want to continue the conversation. And then the next step is, you see, this morning when those young man and woman or young, this is what we need. And this is where our country is at this point. So going forward, what we need to do is to have this courageous conversation, to look into the eyes of people and tell them that, look, you're giving responsibility to do this thing. Do it or you quit. Defko walanga bai ligebe. So, as I said, on behalf of the Committee of Elders, that is Uncle Mahdi and Uncle Sal, we would like to thank each and every one of you for supporting this event, for contributing. Guys, do you know this was a self-funded program? Like, it's called Gambia 8. People contributed their own money to make this thing happen. Please put your hands together for everyone who paid. In fact, some people gave us euros. So thank you so much. And then we very much appreciate this. So as part of the engagement for the next step, we said we're going to have this in Birkama, so we're going to plan to have this thing in Birkama, and we will give you the date and time for it. And again, we had 5 thematic areas, and I think all of you knew that we had 5 thematic areas, and each of the thematic areas we did well on it, and we want to continue that conversation to show that this 60th independent anniversary of this country is a year of discussion where we want our country to be in the next years to come. So thank you for coming, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Asante sana, Joe boy, Joe boy, Joe boy. Yes.
You have to bring the Kenyan.
Boy, I'm fine.
Thank you. And we're at the end now. We're done. Everybody is going. The people that are remaining are leaving now. Group photo.
Yeah, group photo, yeah.
Other camera guys. Where's our camera people?
Uncle Madi.
Hadi, Hadi.
Call her. Hey, boy, Mark. Hadi.
Hadi. Wait.
Uncle Madi.